Hello, my name is Gareth. You're watching the Hub Online Network. Sorry we're late today. We have some new employees with us and we're just doing some training here. So that is awesome. They've been great all day so far. We'll see how tomorrow is. Anyway, today's episode is about COVID, minimum wage, and protests. So let's get to it. So before we get to any of the numbers and that kind of stuff, we do have Vicki Trill in the studio. For the Hub is officially open, but we're going to learn about the new rules and regulations that Vicki has and has had to, not the hoops she's had to jump through, but some of the paperwork that she's had to do, the new rules that she's had to come up with. So let's say hello to Miss Vicki Trill.
Hey Gareth, I'm glad to be here. There is a lot going on when you want to open up your business again. And so thankfully, WorkBC or WorkSafeBC has a great site. And they take you through the whole process, and it starts from assessing things like where are your high touch points, where do people normally gather, what kinds of things are shared, like say a photocopier or a stapler, and then you take all of that assessment that you gather from a very large building, in our case over here at the Hub, and you come up with protocols around those things. For instance, if you have shared equipment, what happens right after you use it? You clean and sanitize it. Other things like where do people gather? Well, we don't want them to gather, so how will we ensure that that happens? We take away chairs, we change the flow of traffic. And so we've got this binder with my felt pen title, the COVID-19 Safety Plan and Monitoring Log. So not only do we have about a 20-page plan of protocols to ensure that we're complying with the province and the health minister's COVID safety plan, but we also have to ensure that we're doing what we said we're going to do. So we've got that in place. Everybody's pulling their weight over here, including what Gareth just mentioned. We've got some new stuff, thank goodness, because in this large building, there are a lot of things to clean and sanitize consistently. So we're all sharing everything from toilets and doorknobs and floors and everything else in between. But we are ready. We're ready for the public to come, and we have been so excited to see your faces again.
So what happens if there's non-compliance with the rules? Like from a business standpoint, WCB walks in and says you're not following the rules. Mm-hmm. What happens?
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, every business, in order for them to open, they have to have their WorkSafe COVID-19 safety plan in place. They have to have it in a visible place. And then they also have to show that they're monitoring it. So we've got, again, this book. And if WorkSafe were to come on our site, they would say, show me your COVID-19 safety plan. The binder is there, it's accessible, the plan is in the book. And then at the back of the book, we have monitoring plans that everybody completes every day, and that shows that we're following those protocols.
Has there been any people that have already taken advantage of the Hub facilities yet? Because you just opened today.
Yeah, today was the day, and yes, all kinds of faces have been coming through. We've been using the gym. I just was using the gym. I'm trying to fan myself off, but man, it feels so good to be back. And yeah, I just can't wait to see more of your faces coming in.
What were a couple of the major changes that have been made to maybe the scheduling or in rules, the big things from before COVID to now?
I would say one of the biggest things for sure is our hours of operation. One of the stipulations for gyms and fitness centers is that we have controlled monitoring. So we have to have staff on site at all times when somebody's in the building. So that is limited to the amount of staff that we have. But I am proud to say that we have Monday to Fridays, 6 a.m. till 10 p.m., Saturdays from noon till 8, and closed on Sunday. So I think there's probably some time in there that you can all get your workout in there.
Has there been any complaints from the public at all about this?
Yeah, no, not at all. I was a little bit worried when I was going to talk to all of our staff to say, P.S., everybody gets to clean toilets. No one's complained at all about that either, and people coming on site. they are kind of tentative about what's going on because there's a lot more signs and things that say stop but no, everybody's been very receptive and understanding. They know why we're doing this.
And I think last question for myself, has there been any difficulty in getting cleaning supplies or sanitization materials?
Yeah, that's another tricky thing. And we're so fortunate because we've got some great partners that have suppliers. But yes, it is tricky to get, especially those sanitizing products. And a number of different items like touchless thermometers, those things also are in short supply. So yeah, certainly don't wait until the last minute if you're trying to open your business. Get the plan in place, order things well in advance, and again, way before you run out of that product, order some more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'll let you
Thanks for having me.
Get out of here. So you have yourself a good rest of your afternoon, and we will see you here, not on the show, but we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Gareth.
At the Hub.
See you at the Hub.
So now let's talk about the numbers. So on Saturday, we had 11 new cases of COVID-19, and we're going to listen to briefly what Bonnie Henry, the new numbers from Sunday to now from Dr. Bonnie Henry. So let's listen to that.
So my honor to introduce Dr. Bonnie Henry.
Thank you and good afternoon. So today, June 1st, we're updating on the 2 reporting periods from our last meeting, which is Saturday to Sunday, and between that period of time we had 9 new people who tested positive for COVID-19, and then again from Sunday to this morning there were an additional 15 cases who tested positive for COVID-19. So that's 24 new test positive cases in the last 2 days, bringing our total to 2,597 people in British Columbia. And that includes 904 in the Vancouver Coastal Health Region, 1,307 people in the Fraser Health Region, 127 in the Vancouver Island Health Region, 195 people in Interior Health Region, and 64 people in the Northern Health Region. This does tell us that there is still transmission of our communities.
Okay, so there's still some cases going around of COVID-19, so remember to stay safe out there, though. Where's my cord? Remember to stay safe out there. And as they always say, assume that everybody has COVID, so do your best to protect yourself. And let us know by emailing us at hon@ashcrofthub.com if you have any interesting COVID stories that you want to get across to us here. We'd always love to share your story as much as we can, so please pass that along. And if you're at home and you'd like to give me a call, I believe my phone number is 778-694-4662, but it is up on the screen right now. It's very weird not being the one that's doing all of the switching and overlaying. But we do have our magnificent Troy Wong as one of our new employees running the switcher board, so thank you, Troy. And of course, we have Jessica in the studio also running the chats. And that's another interesting thing for me is normally I can see what the chats are, but I can't see it this way because I'm no longer in charge of the monitor. So I don't know what everybody's saying this time. It's kind of weird. I'm having little withdrawals. But we will get through this together. Now, some interesting stories that have been popping up is, well, don't forget that taxes are due today for normal people and June 15th for people that are self-employed. So if you haven't gotten your taxes done, they have extended it to a last day to have it in today before there are penalties. So make sure that you get that done. And the Healthcare and Wellness Coalition in Ashcroft was outside of the post office in Ashcroft today. So they're getting their message out. So if you are interested in healthcare in our communities, they're having a membership drive that is today and on the 8th. So watch out for them at the Ashcroft post office on the 8th, because I believe today for them is done. And let me bring up Matthias's story. So we have 3 new people, as I've mentioned. Matthias Sampson, Raven Nyman, am I saying that right? Yes, and Troy Wong, and they have all been helping me out by coming up with some great stories. Let me just pull this up here. So from Matthias. So schools are beginning to intake students as of today. Some teachers are concerned that it may not be possible to keep social distancing at all times. The 2-meter recommended distance cannot always be enforced when classes do not have the space needed to facilitate distancing. A representative of the North Vancouver School District has quoted by saying, social distancing may not be feasible and it is not expected at all times in these school settings. However, Dr. Bonnie Henry says, we know how to deal with this, we know that it is not easily spread, and we know that it can be prevented. We know that it can prevent it by putting in place the measures that we have in our schools. She also adds that we are ready for this and we are reopening schools because we believe it is safe to do so. So let's talk to Matthias about that because he's graduating from the Desert Sands Community School. So let's talk to Matthias about how he feels about schools opening up. Are you planning on going back to school at all?
Personally, I think I'm going to go for the first day, but since online schooling has been working for me, I've been able to get everything I need to get done through online schooling. I don't think it's very worth it for me personally to go into the school. I know some of my classmates are in classes that require resources that only the school can provide, like a lab. So a couple of students, I think they're only allowing 2 students in the lab at a time. They're going to go in, they're going to do their labs that they need to do, and they're going to go. But I don't think I'm going to go just because if I don't have to, I'm not going to. And I think a lot of parents are sticking with this philosophy. If they don't have to send their children to school, they won't. I think a large reason that they're allowing schools to open is because a lot of parents need somewhere for their kids to go during the day.
I always, since they started reopening the schools, I always thought it was a sort of dry run for September. What do you think about that? So what I mean by dry run is they're practicing now for what it might look like in September. Because really, if everybody's going to pass, regardless, why open up the schools if it's not for...
And I absolutely agree that it's a good idea to make sure that everything works, make sure they have a good schedule in place that works for students. And that's really the biggest thing, just making sure that students can come in next year and still get the learning that school regularly provides, even if it's not all at the school.
Have most of your friends gotten jobs already? Have they moved on, getting ready for their online courses in college, or are they... do you know of any friends that you have that are planning to go back?
I have a couple of friends that are planning to go back, once again, just because they have labs they need to do at the school. Not necessarily that they really have to do, but I think what a lot of grads are really missing is the experience that we work for. We work for this last 3 months at school, and we look forward to our last 3 months as like, this is it. It's all over now. Like this 12 years has all been working towards this. And I think a lot of people are really missing that experience, and I don't think they're going to find it going to school in person. It simply cannot be the same with the rules and regulations, the necessary rules and regulations that are in place. Of course, they have to put in all the social distancing guidelines. So I think a lot of people are going back to try and salvage some of that last high school senior experience, but I don't think it's going to be what they expect it to be.
Have you, during COVID, had an opportunity to meet up with your friends, or is that something that you and the people that in your social circle have sort of been distancing on your own?
I personally haven't been in any group settings in the last couple months. Me and my friends have been doing a lot of talking, playing video games. Like we'll talk a lot through chat rooms. We're already very good at keeping in touch through online means. It's mostly how we talk anyway. Like before the pandemic started, a lot of our communication was through media, through all these online chat rooms. And so now we just kind of double down on that. And whatever social interaction we're missing in person, we make up for it by we're always in contact with each other. So I'm glad that I personally have a good social circle that I can always talk to during the pandemic.
Have you heard from any of your teachers
I am personally in contact with a couple of my teachers, and a lot of them are excited to be taking kids in. I know in our specific community, we don't have very many kids, so problems that a lot of city schools are having where they have too many kids for a room and they can't keep distance, we simply just don't have that here. We're in a really good spot to be reopening schools because half of my class is 12 people. So if they take in half my class on one day, that's 12 people in a whole school. We can keep socially distanced very easily. So I think a lot of our teachers are just, they're excited to start bringing kids back in, but I know a lot of my teachers are also very sad that they are missing out on this experience with us because they've been with us throughout our whole school journey, and now kind of like, they don't really get the chance to actually say goodbye to us at school.
Awesome. So moving on from that topic, minimum wage has jumped to $14.60 as of today. And as a side note from Matthias, a person working 30 hours per week will make $438, while someone on the CERB will be collecting around $500 per week. So what are your thoughts on that specifically? Do you think it's fair that the CERB is paying people more?
So I really think that it's a matter of perspective. So for me, when I started working, I had a minimum wage job at Dairy Queen, and I was getting paid something like $12.50 an hour, whatever it was minimum wage back then. And I thought I was the richest man on the planet, getting paid $12.50 an hour. And as I grow up and I'm going to need to pay more bills, $12.50 an hour, it simply isn't going to cut it. So it really depends on where you're coming from. If you're a person with 3 kids, minimum wage isn't going to be enough. And I really think, the philosophy behind raising the minimum wage is so that those people who are in conditions where they need to make a certain money to actually be able to live comfortably are going to be able to work minimum wage jobs. So as of right now, I think that a person working frontline during COVID is being paid less than someone on the CERB. I do think that is unfair. But I also understand that the current government is doing everything that they can to increase the minimum wage so that people who have families who work minimum wage jobs will be able to afford their families, afford their homes, afford food to put in everyone's mouths.
Hypothetical question for you.
Okay.
So you work at Dairy Queen, and how old were you when you worked at Dairy Queen?
I was 14.
Okay, so you're 14. Do you think that maybe 14 to say 7, people that haven't graduated yet, should they be paid the same as someone who's 26 working at Dairy Queen?
Now that's the thing, right? When I was 14 working at Dairy Queen, I didn't even think I deserved $12 an hour because I was 14 and making ice cream. I was like, I'm of course I'd be working all the time, but it was just really easy stuff. It wasn't a hard task. So I feel like your experience should add up to you making more money. And I know if you work at a place like Dairy Queen for long enough, they will bump your wages. If you are an experienced worker in any workplace, I think that that's going to contribute to your pay.
Just to finish off with this one. So for example, my sister used to work at Tim Hortons. And before they started raising the minimum wage largely, so she worked at Tim Hortons for 2 years. And she did work her way up. So she started at $12.60 and she was making $14 by the time she left Tim Hortons. But when she was making $14 an hour, the minimum wage jumped up to $14. She didn't get a bump. So now new people that have started with no experience are now making $14 an hour, just like my sister was. What do you think about that?
I think that specific instance is very unfair. I personally, why wouldn't they bump up her wage?
Well, it's just...
I guess from a financial standpoint, it makes sense. They can't maybe afford to be paying someone $16 an hour, but then again, they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and they probably could,
Interesting. And the last story that Matthias was able to come up with here was Unity Cafe will reopen on Tuesday, June 9th. Congratulations, Nadine. And will be able to serve alcohol on the front patio. And this is via a Facebook post by Nadine Davenport. So that is awesome news. Stay frosty, Nadine, and maybe one day we'll come and have a cold one Non-alcoholic, of course. Anyway, we do have other stories from from Raven. So we do also have Raven working with us now. Raven has been a long-time Hub Online Network contributor by phoning in usually once a week. So some of the things that she has come up with today is the CBC has reported this afternoon that protests in support of Black Lives Matter and the death of George Floyd have now spread to Alberta. Yesterday, the Vancouver-based protest in support of Black Lives Matter and the killing of George Floyd at the Vancouver Public Art Gallery saw over 1,000 people, and today there is a substantial turnout of demonstrators in Calgary. CBC reports this afternoon that more than 1,000 people have gathered in Calgary's East Village for a loud but peaceful demonstration Monday morning in response to the death of George Floyd, which has sparked widespread outrage in cities across the United States. So now talking about the unfortunate, untimely crash and death in regards to the snowbird in Kamloops a few weeks ago. Bird strike may have been potential cause for fatal snowbird crash from Black Press. Katya Slepian, am I saying that right? So this is from Katya Slepian. A preliminary report into the fatal crash that killed one person and left another injured near Kamloops in May has revealed a bird seen next to the engine intake. Quote, the investigation is focusing on the environmental factors as well as the performance of the escape system, said the report, which confirmed that both occupants ejected from the jet after it took a left turn, then dropped nose first to the ground, destroying on impact. Last week, the snowbirds returned to their home base in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, one day after the body of Captain Jen Casey was flown home to Halifax. So that, of course, is a very sad story, and we've been following that a few times during our news segments, and hopefully the man that survived is doing better, but it is sad to hear about that particular death. She was a journalist in the Air Force as well, so that is a little more close to home for us here as well. So anyway, thoughts go out to her family. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced Monday morning that the federal government will offer cities an advanced transfer of $2.2 billion in infrastructure money to help cover COVID-19 prompted budget shortfalls. The 2020-2021 funding will be sent through the federal gas tax fund and will be made in a single payment this month, rather than being spread across 2 annual payments, as typically happens. To help municipalities rebound from the pandemic as quickly as possible, the gas tax fund provides more than $2 billion a year to 3,600 communities across Canada, where funds then flow from the federal government to the local level of infrastructure projects under 18 different categories, including public transit, water, wastewater infrastructure, local roads and bridges, disaster mitigation, broadband and connectivity, culture, tourism, and recreation. On Monday, Finance Minister Carol James announced that landlords in BC who are eligible for emergency federal rent relief and choose not to apply will not be able to evict businesses that aren't able to pay rent today, June 1st. The emergency order restricts lease terminations, rent repayment lawsuits, and repossessions of goods and properties, and will stay in place until the end of June, when the federal relief program is set to end. James said the order is meant to protect small businesses during the COVID-19 pandemic and to encourage landlords to apply for the Canada Emergency Commercial Rent Assistance, or the CERCA, C-E-R-C-A, which aims to reduce rent owned by small businesses tenants by 75% for April, May, and June. And Ashcroft Desert Hills family fundraiser for their Facebook page. Desert Hills Ranch recently learned of the passing of one of their long-term workers, Gabriel. To express their condolences and support, the ranch has been collecting donations for Gabriel's family. Quote, we have had a lot of people wanting to help his family out. So we have put out strawberry planters at the retail store in Ashcroft for $20 each. 100% of the proceeds will be donated to his family in Mexico. Family sticks together, and we will make sure they are taken care of in these unprecedented times. So that is very good of Desert Hills to be taking care of that. So thank you very much for your help and support for Gabriel. Now, let me move on here to Prime Minister just says role play. Talking about the protests, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says all Canadians have a role to play in confronting systemic racism as solidarity protests spread around the world following the death of George Floyd, a Black American who pleaded for air as an officer pressed a knee into his neck during the arrest last week. Trudeau said he wants young Black Canadians to know he is listening and understands why many are anxious and angry, and those are in quotes, about the continued racism and discrimination they face, including at the hands of police. This is from the 100 Mile Free Press. Dr. Tam says signs and noisemakers are safer ways for demonstrators to express themselves. So top health officials are encouraging anti-racism rally-goers to make sure their voices are heard while keeping COVID-19 safety in mind, as they acknowledge a striking lack of data on how marginalized communities have been hit by the pandemic. For months, public health authorities have discouraged large gatherings to prevent the spread of COVID-19, but neither Canada's health minister nor its chief public health officer are suggesting people avoid taking to the streets in this case. Now, talking about our local MP and MLA, so Brad Viss on Twitter says, yet again, at our Commons has proven that remote meetings do not work sufficiently well. 16 minutes into a 1-hour meeting and 0 work completed. Still asking Jerry Dias for the weather. And I had to look this up, but Jerry Dias is a Canadian journalist, and this is in reference to they have tried to have a meeting in Parliament, but virtual meetings are not necessarily all that conducive to that lifestyle or government, what's the word I'm looking for, way of doing things. So that is from Brad Viss. And from Jackie Taggart, our local MLA, she says school groups can visit the BC Legislature virtually. Teachers can book 2 new online programs for their students to enjoy from their home, computer, or classroom. Visit BC Leg, so bcleg.ca/e-learn for more information. Spots are filling up, so join us for our virtual career. So that is that. A second thing that Jackie Taggart has shared that I thought was interesting was spots are filling up. Join us for our virtual career fair on June 2nd, 2020 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Gain insight on your application, ask questions, and find out why interior health is right fit for you. #job fair, #career fair. So that's pretty cool if you are someone that is looking to get into interior health. June 2nd, so tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. there is a job fair for you to get hooked up with. We've already covered that, thanks to Raven. The Trans Mountain, Trans Mountain has begun construction of its pipeline twinning project in Kamloops today. So Trans Mountain President Ian Anderson says the first steps involve the site preparation work between Ord Road and the Thompson River. In quotes, it will initially start around Ord Road where we will come off the bluff and north of the airport. So they're starting up the Trans Mountain Pipeline in Kamloops. I believe it is a 7-kilometer stretch that they're doing out there to start. And that is starting as of this week, and they go officially breaking ground at the end of the month. If you have healthcare related questions about COVID-19 or BC's restart plan or BC's surgical renewal plan on Monday, so tonight, June 1st, from 7:15 to 8:15 p.m., Interior Health is inviting those living within Interior Health region to join the following guests as they answer your questions. So this is on the Interior Health Facebook page, and I'm assuming their website as well. But you can ask your questions to Interior Health Authority CEO Susan Brown and Chief Medical Health Officer Dr. Sue Pollock, hosted by MLA Katrine Conroy and MLA Doug Klovenchuk. So that is that bit. Where am I here? So now, but Dr. Bonnie Henry is suggesting that few faces, bigger spaces, still the name of the game. So during her COVID-19 updates on May 30th, BC's Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry said adding more people to one social circle likely won't happen anytime soon. Prior to Victoria Day long weekend, British Columbians were told they could expand their bubble by 2 to 6 people. She says, I don't see that changing in the short term. So if you have a small group of people that you're hanging out with, Dr. Bonnie Henry is suggesting that you do not make it significantly larger, but a couple more people probably isn't the end of the world. We've already talked about the career fair for Interior Health. We don't have an update today from Cache Creek about the floods, but we do have one from yesterday, and to my understanding, it is not gone away yet. So expect water levels in the river to rise during the next 24 hours as a result of last night's rainfall. And again, this is from yesterday's point of view. But we don't expect them to be as high as last week's levels. The town received much less rain than was predicted going into the weekend and is not expected to overflow the banks. However, the level will still be high and fast until midweek, and we hope to see it begin to lower. The village is still on a state of a local emergency, and the properties along the river remain an evacuation alert. The Todd Road Bridge and the pedestrian footbridge at the end of Collins Road are open to the public, and stay a minimum of 10 feet away from the riverbank because of lengthy state of flooding. The banks are saturated and undercut in many places, which I've been walking this particular section, and it is, especially behind Sandman and across from Sage and Sands Mobile Home Park, there is significant erosion of the banks, and there's been lots of trees falling a little bit further down past the water sewage treatment plant. So please keep your distance if you have to go towards the river, 10 feet away at least. We don't want anybody to fall in. And that's pretty much all the stuff that is fit to print today. So I wanted to give a big thank you to our 3 new people. Thank you to Matthias for sitting in the hot seat. Thank you to Vicky for also joining us. If you have anything that you would like to let us know about, again, you can email us at hon@ashcrofthub.com. And maybe on Friday we'll have another one of our 3 new employees in the hot seat answering a few questions. So stay safe, have yourself a great week, and we'll see you Friday at 3.